Joining us today on District Directions is Mrs. Connie Blaney with the District Update, Dr. John Clinton, the Director of Fine Arts, and Mrs. Linda Kramer with an Opening Doors. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another edition of District Directions. I'm your host, Amanda Patterson. Getting us started today is Mrs. Connie Blaney, who is always here to keep us informed on all the things going on in the district. Today, she has quite a list of district educators who have received various awards. Let's see who these outstanding educators are.
The Norman Board of Education met on Monday evening, April 21st. The meeting began with the recognition of our new 1997 District Teacher of the Year, Tracy Four, from Norman High School. The board congratulated Mr. Four. Certificates were presented to the following: State Champion Girls Basketball Team, All-State Girls Basketball, All-State Basketball, Individual State Champions Boys Swimming, All-State Boys Swimmers, Individual State Champion Girls Swimming, All-State Girls Swimmers, Girls Swimming State Academic Champs, Individual State Champion Boys Wrestling, and All-State Boys Wrestling. The board recognized the 1997 Academic All-Staters. Norman High's 3 All-Staters are Carrie Kane, Jeremy Mullins, and Hillary Reeser. These students were recognized Saturday evening at the Foundation for Excellence banquet held out at the Cowboy Hall of Fame. Gary Kramer, Director of Video Resources, and Fred Avery, Studio Manager, were presented with the statewide Partners for Excellence Award by the Oklahoma School Public Relations Association on April 11th at the annual conference. The board presented them with certificates of recognition. James Elder, President of the Norman Public School Foundation, gave a report on the foundation. The foundation's fund drive is presently underway with a goal of $75,000. Spring grants were held with $15,964.78 total in classroom grants and $1,580 in 3 staff development grants. And they will all be awarded this week. This round included 44 classroom grants and the 3 staff development grants. The foundation has now awarded a grand total of 669 grants for a total amount of $253,767.70. We thank the Foundation trustees for all their hard work in their fundraising efforts. Gail Gilliland, the PTA Council President, gave a report on the PTA Council and the activities of the 21 PTA units. This is the 100th year of PTA. The district has 5,000 members, the largest ever in its history. She reported on various activities of the schools and fundraisers for the schools. She said over $300,000 in goods and services have been provided this year by the PTA units. The following items on the consent agenda were approved or accepted: purchase orders, minutes, purchase requests, financial reports, personnel, fundraising events, and organizations to be sanctioned by the board. The board approved the low bid for Norman High School North Phase 4 project. The successful bidder was L.F. Downey of Edmond for a base bid of $798,540. The board approved alternate A, asphalt paving, for $120,000 and alternate B, a plywood center field fence, for $11,000. 2 change orders were approved for Norman High School North Phase 2 project. The change orders were a deduction of $31,000 on the terrazzo floor and the addition of base cabinets in classrooms for $70,228. The low bid of West Star Construction Incorporated for $350,184 was approved for the following projects: a renovation of orchestra room at West Mid-High, which will be Alcott, and an orchestra room at Central Mid-High, which will be Longfellow, concession and restroom building at the softball field at Irving Middle School, and a reinforcement of fascia at Irving Middle School and Whittier Middle School. Standard Home and Industry Incorporated submitted the low bid for the new roof at Kennedy Elementary. The total bid was $115,155. The Comprehensive Local Education Plan was approved by the board. Chuck Thomas, Marriott School Services, presented a 1996-97 NPS Custodial Services report. The board approved a request for the 1997-98 District Deregulation application for staff development. School board member Gary W. Copeland commended everyone for the outstanding celebration of teaching banquet held last Friday evening. Dan Snell discussed a statewide bus accident report received at a recent meeting. Following executive session, the meeting was adjourned. The Assistance League of Norman Public Schools will hold Kindergarten Roundup on Wednesday, May 7th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at each elementary school in the district. Coordinating the Kindergarten Roundup for the Assistance League is Diana Williams, assisted by Pat Nolan, Director of Student Services for the Norman Public Schools. Parents or guardians need to complete enrollment at the school the child will attend. Enrollment will also be held for students who are currently attending a private kindergarten and wish to enroll in the first grade. Kindergartners must be 5 years old on or before September 1st, 1997. Congratulations to Phil DeBerry, our Director of Special Services. He has been named Outstanding Director of Special Services in the state of Oklahoma. He will be recognized at a special ceremony later this month. It is an honor for Norman Schools to have both the Outstanding Special Education Administrator of the Year and OSPA School Psychologist of the Year. Marshall Andrew Glenn, School Psychologist for our district, was recently honored by his association for this statewide award. We are very proud of both of these fine educators. Our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. James Gray, announced to the staff and to the patrons of this community that he will be retiring from the school district in the fall. Dr. Gray has been superintendent since 1985. We want to extend our appreciation to him for his loyalty and dedication to Norman Public Schools and for all his contributions in the past 12 years to this school system. He is a man of integrity and strength. Dr. Richard Schiller, Assistant Superintendent, said that Dr. Gray has guided our district through significant changes with the insight and wisdom that comes with many years of experience in the profession. Dr. Gray assured us that he will be here to make our transition from 1 high school to 2 and from 3 middle schools to 4 middle schools. He noted that he wants our schools to get a good start next year with a smooth transition. The Board of Education will be announcing in a few days the process that they will implement in finding a new superintendent for Norman Public Schools. The next regular school board meeting will be the third Monday of May, May 19th, at the Administrative Services Center. The public is invited to attend. For Norman Public Schools, I'm Connie Blaney.
Thank you, Mrs. Blaney. Next to join us is Dr. John Clinton, Norman's Director of Fine Arts. Today, Dr. Clinton and Larry Reed are discussing a Norman High School band reunion concert. Let's listen in as Dr. Clinton explains more.
Welcome on Focus on the Fine Arts. I'm John Clinton, the Director of the Fine Arts for the public schools here in Norman. We're pleased to have you here with us today. I am really excited about an event that's going to be coming up on May the 12th through the 16th that I know is going to be of great interest to literally thousands of people who are in our community as well as people who are outside of our community. And to help talk about that a little bit today, I've brought a guest with me, Larry Reed. Larry, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of the show. Let me just real briefly, as you already know, talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing. There's some names that people will recognize. If they are between the ages of about I don't know, probably 60, 55 to 60, all the way down to people who are in their late 20s. And that includes Bill Robinson, band director in the 40s, James Middleton, 50s and 60s, Harry Haynes, who was here in the 60s, John Morgan, who was here in the late 60s and 70s, Dennis Smith, who was here in the late 70s and 80s, Jackie Dillon. A lot of wonderful people are coming back to see us. And Larry, you were part of that at one time, weren't you?
I sure was. I kind of feel that being part of the Norman Instrumental Music program back in the 60s, I was here from, moved to Norman in 1964. And I kind of feel that back then we were really kind of a cut above. I kind of liken it to OU football
Yes.
in the heydays.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of national recognition, and it was really fun to be a part of the program back then.
Now, you came in 64. I'm just going to just move over to the side here slightly. Why did you move here in 64?
Well, my dad landed a job as the superintendent of schools.
Yes,
So,
right.
Yeah.
And has been very important in the development of the arts, as well as some of the other superintendents, especially current Superintendent Gray, who has done a good job with that as well. But Lester was a real impetus to a lot of things that happened here in the Norman schools for our instrumental music department. Now, Larry, I need to give people some history, but I want to do it in a retrospective view, or in a reverse order here, I guess. You have been in music for years, but currently that's not what you're doing. Can you give us some background, starting with the present, and if you can do this, reverse yourself back to your high school days?
Okay. Well, I'm currently a financial consultant at Merrill Lynch in Oklahoma City, and it's a very rewarding job. I used to teach, and I kind of think that a lot of my work is very similar to my work as a teacher. But I'm also a bassoonist, and I think bassoon is a very good part-time instrument. Because of the nature of the horn. I started out on trumpet, and if I were a trumpet player now, I wouldn't be able to continue at the level that I do on the bassoon.
All right, thank you for saying that. I'm a trumpet player, and that's why I can't
Right.
do it, obviously.
It used to give me a headache.
That's right. Good.
But I've been doing that for about 17 years now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That
Moved back to
long.
Norman in 1980, and been with them ever since.
With Merrill Lynch?
Yeah.
Had no idea it had been that long.
Yeah.
Now, before that, you were playing bassoon and teaching. Where were you teaching?
Well, I taught at Baylor University for 5
Yes.
years
Uh-huh.
in the 70s.
You taught bassoon there.
Right.
And tell me where your degrees are from.
Well, I got a bachelor's in bassoon from University of Oklahoma. I studied with Betty Johnson,
Oh,
a
yeah.
famous bassoonist around here.
You bet.
And then I went to Indiana, which is thought of as one of the best music schools in the country, and studied with a guy named Leonard Sharrow, who was a
Yes.
famous bassoonist in the Chicago Symphony, and got my master's there, and then went on to Baylor and taught.
Great. Did you ever start to pursue another degree after that?
I did pursue a doctorate. Haven't finished it, but I did do that.
Yeah.
And
That's
about
just
that time was the change.
In the back of my mind, you know, I was starting to think there was something about you pursuing a doctorate in music theory.
Right.
And I couldn't quite
Exactly.
remember, but that's pretty incredible. Now, some people might consider that to be a major switch, to go from teaching bassoon and being so heavily involved. You're still playing regularly.
Right.
You've played with the Oklahoma City Philharmonic. You've played in a variety of places around here. You just told me that recently you played for a PDQ Bach.
Right.
And for people who don't know about that, they need to find out who PDQ Bach is. It's too special to pass up. At Southern Nazarene. So you're still playing a great deal. Now you're involved as a financial consultant, which many people would consider that to be the antithesis of what you were doing in the arts. Tell me about how you made that change and why you made that change.
Well, I think they're complementary. You know, there have been a lot of studies to suggest that there's a lot of similar interests and abilities, math, numbers versus music. So to me, it's been a pretty natural thing. As a matter of fact, when I went to OU, I was counseled into possibly pursuing a career in engineering.
Really?
Because I had a pretty strong math background, but music drew me in that direction. So.
This may be something more than you really want to talk about, and we haven't discussed this at any time, but do you think the relationship between being in music has any way helped you with what you're doing with your present career or other careers that you may think of?
Yeah, I believe absolutely. When you're a musician or any kind of an artist, it's really a total life commitment. Many hours in the practice room. It's very time intensive. And I think that, you're constantly competing and being challenged to raise your performance standards. And I think a lot of that, trying to achieve excellence and maintain that level, has helped me in the field that I'm in right now.
That's terrific. It's really good. That must have been a major decision for you, though.
Well, it was. One of the difficult things that I found is that I had many other interests when I was teaching at Baylor. And if you're a teacher and a player, there are many people in this area that can relate to that, it's really hard to maintain performance standards and do what you need to do in the classroom also.
It's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
Now, Larry, when did you graduate from high school?
Graduated in 1970.
1970. Now, that was the last year, the first year that I was here, your last year, but the first year. So you were in the heyday of people like James Middleton. Frank Ristaw was probably around then,
Right,
wasn't he?
yeah. He was my first band director here in
Okay.
Norman.
Harry Haynes. And then you got a little bit of John Morgan. So you went through 4 band directors while you were here?
Middleton was my first bassoon teacher, so
Yes.
he holds a very special place in my heart.
That's great. That's terrific. Now, I want you to relive for me, just for a moment, the time that you were in band. Can you think of any special times that happened while you were at West then?
Right.
Where Frank was, and then you came to Norman High School. Any special times that you remember while you were in the high school band?
Probably the highlight of many people's life back then was our trip to the Midwest National Band Convention in, this was December of 67, I believe.
Sounds right.
And again, we had achieved a level of reputation around the country, so it was a great honor for us to not only go, but we gave the finale, the grand finale concert. So we were the cream of the crop, as they say. So we had great experiences with a guy named Howard Hanson, who at that time was head of music school at Eastman and a famous composer, and he conducted the second movement of one of his symphonies. Then there was another band composer named Václav Nelibel, who was a great band composer, and he conducted our band. And then for the finale performance, we played with a very talented, rather young trumpet player named Doc Severinsen.
You said you had a picture of Doc, and what did he look like then?
Well, this was the last time Doc ever wore a conservative double-breasted blue blazer.
Now, he also held you guys up a little bit, too.
Right, right.
While you were there.
He came in very late, and I remember rehearsing, it was almost midnight probably before we finally finished.
My goodness.
But we didn't, we were high school kids.
But I know that the band, high school band, has been twice. Actually, I should say this, West went one year, if I remember correctly, back in the maybe late 50s, early 60s. The high school band has been at least once or twice, and the high school orchestra has been once back in 1973. And when you brought up the name Václav Nelibel, we played one of his pieces while we were there, and he was in the audience. And it's just incredible to think that you can have Howard Hanson probably doing the Second Symphony, the Romantic maybe,
exactly.
yes, doing the Second Symphony. You have Doc Severinsen up there with you. You had Václav Nelibel. Plus, whatever other pieces you played, you had at least a 75% chance that that person who composed the piece was out in the audience.
Yeah.
It's a pretty scary time.
Yeah.
And actually, since then, they've changed it to the Midwest Band and Orchestra Clinic. They changed it in about 1969. So now we have the offering of a lot of things happening there. And every year, some of our directors go up there to see what that's like and learn more things than anybody can possibly imagine. Now, did you guys were you on the infamous train trip?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And we left the old Norman Depot at about 7:30 in the evening and rode all night. And I remember waking up and we were in Chillicothe, Illinois. But, we didn't get much sleep that night. It was a great trip.
I'm sure
back
it
in the
was.
old days.
How long did it take you to get there on the train?
We got to Chicago and our hotel must have been around 11 or 12 in the morning.
I
So
see.
it was an all-nighter.
All-nighter trip,
Yeah.
about 14 to 15 hours then, something
Yeah,
like
right,
that.
right.
Well, there's lots of stories that go around about that train trip. Bob Kidd, who was on the faculty at that time, talks about the time that he pretty much stayed awake all night, I think, watching down the long corridor.
I think he had to.
Yeah, probably so, right. Absolutely. Well, they're great kids and there are good things happening. Now, we're getting ready for this reunion, and just to reiterate, we're going to do that, the dates that all the directors are coming in is May 12th. And they'll be here through the May 16th. And I want to talk about that schedule a little bit, and I want to talk about some of the planning board. On May the 13th, the high school band, high school orchestra will be having their concert, of which Jackie Dillon and another old codger named John Clinton is going to be there to conduct. It's hard to believe that I've gotten so old that some of my former students are now 45, 46 years old. I don't know how that happened or how they got so old so fast. Then we're going to have a wonderful reunion out at the Holiday Inn here in Norman, starting at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, May the 14th. And we sure want to invite people to that. On the 15th, the high school band will have their concert out at Homburg Hall. And we're going to have Harry and James and Bill and John are going to conduct, and Dennis Smith are going to conduct on that concert. Then on Friday, we're going to have a rehearsal where all the alumni who wants to can come back in and be with their former director and to work through that. Are you going to be playing in that rehearsal?
I'd love to.
Yeah?
I think it'd be a great honor.
Good. That's terrific.
To see a lot of old friends. And I will also say something about Bill Robinson. He was long before I was, and he was legendary in this town because he wrote a book entitled something like The Breath Impulse System.
Yes.
And that very rigid, very strict approach to teaching kids rhythm really, I think, was one of the main reasons why our music program was so good. But I never had the pleasure of meeting him until I went to teach at Baylor. He, at that time, was on the horn. He was the horn teacher there, and so we played in the woodwind quintet together and became very close friends.
What a unique set of circumstances to pull you away from here and him wherever he was. I don't know where he was before then, but to pull you down to Baylor and then you could play music together. Actually,
Right. He went to Jacksonville, Florida, and then on to Baylor.
I see. Very good. You know, we have just produced, and we're in fact going to finish it off before May the 1st, a CD that people might be interested in, because we have a recording of Bill Robinson's band doing La Fiesta Mexicana. And I listened to all these recordings last week. It took me about 4 to 6 hours to go through all this stuff with the engineer. It's really good. I mean, it is, we were in good bands when we were in high school back in the 50s and 60s. I had no idea. And most people don't have that in their library because it's too hard. And then we have Harry doing the symphony in B-flat, the Hindemith, that you may have
I did play on
performed on that one. So we're going to have that on the CD. We have James Middleton with the Central Junior High School Band doing Italian in Algiers. It's very good. John Morgan doing the symphonic movement by Clifton Williams. We have the First Orchestra doing the Schubert Unfinished Symphony. Plus we're going to have things from last year's current groups who are working with that. So that ought to be interesting to see how that all works together. Tell me what kind of things, just very briefly, what kind of things do you think people or you will be able to relive with those former teachers of here?
Well, I think it's important for former students, really of any walk of life, to somehow communicate at some point how much impact these people have on your life. Because the whole being involved in the Norman music program was very, very, I'll say, instrumental in the direction my life took. I've developed a passion for music, and these guys had a big part of it. We had many shared experiences, and I think that there's a lot of people who were in the Norman bands out there that are now playing professionally.
Yes.
I know as a trombone player and tuba player. Many of these guys are famous musicians in their own right.
Not Ross Perot. Perot, and I've just lost his
David
first. David Perot,
right.
absolutely. Well, that's the difference.
Geno Smith was
Geno Smith.
And his sister, Christine.
Yeah, Christina's up in Chicago playing now, and Gino's somewhere in the DePaul area, Indiana, I believe it is, conducting all over the place. In fact, he did the Quartz Mountain Orchestra a couple of summers ago.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah, a lot of things like that happen. So there's a lot of really good people. Well, it's going to be an exciting time, Larry, for all of us. One of the things that I think that you mentioned that's most important is that most music teachers, band, orchestra, or chorus, may not ever realize the impact that they have on students and what they do with their lives and what's happening to them at that point. Some of it comes because of shared positive experiences. Some of it comes because of shared suffering. Being out on the marching field at 7:30 every morning, marching through the snow and the wet, and coming in and having to get ready to go to school real quickly. There's a lot of shared suffering that is really wonderful, but it's all for a goal, and it's all a really good thing.
The drummers always had to suffer more than the others because even on those rainy days when everyone else could leave their instrument inside, we had to be out counting time.
And see, people don't know that because you were not only a wonderful bassoonist, and for other people out there in our audience who have been bassoonists or oboists or things like that, you were also a first-rate marching bass drummer.
Well,
and that's terrific.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
I pull out my bass drum beater once a year and play in the OU Alumni Band.
That's great. That's just wonderful. Larry, it has been a real joy to have you here, and I appreciate you being part of this. We've got the Norman Arts Humanities Council has been a great help already, has given us a grant to work with this. Jim Miller down at the Transcript Press is really excited about it. Rob Collins, those people down there. It's just going to be a wonderful event, and we're going to make sure that people get the information. But if you need to have further information about this band and orchestra reunion, we'd invite you to call 366-5870 and to get more information about it. We're looking for a wonderful time, and we hope that many of the alumni will be able to come with us. Larry, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, John, and thank you very much for putting all this together.
I appreciate that.
We owe you a debt of gratitude.
It's going to be a wonderful event for me as well.
Great.
And thank you for joining us as we have focused on the fine arts.
Thank you, Dr. Clinton. Our final guest is Mrs. Linda Kramer, and today she is discussing Central's Native American corn planting ceremony on opening doors.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. Helping students become concerned, caring citizens is one of the charges of education that we take seriously here in the Norman Public Schools. We actively seek out opportunities to help students develop their concern and caring for the community, both local and global, and to demonstrate those ideals. People who are taught to care about and respect others learn to care about and respect themselves. One of the clearest demonstrations of this idea is the Native American ceremony of corn planting. Our indigenous people believe that the rainbow corn holds and transmits the memory of the people and places where it was previously planted. As we honor and appreciate the corn cultivated in this hemisphere since 5000 BC, it continues to enrich and sustain us. On April 22nd, Central Mid-High's Native American Club sponsored a corn planting ceremony. Carl Barnes, also affectionately known as the Corn Man, conducted a corn planting ceremony to honor the memory of those who died and those who lost loved ones in the April 19th bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building.
Agricultural achievement of all time has taken place over 7,000 years. And this may be on the test before the week's over. And this was the domestication of corn, the most important crop in the world. When you go to the hospital and they give you intravenous, they're giving you our blood, glucose from corn.
Tradition dictates that only 3 plantings can take place at one time and on one spot. So we held the ceremony during 3 different hours that day. Since the corn will remember where it has been planted and where it will go, we conducted the 3 plantings to represent the 3 sites to which the staff of Central will be dispersed throughout the school system next year: Alcott, Norman High, and Norman North. Traditional planting takes place by sowing the corn by hand and planting it by foot without the aid of implements. Songs and prayers are a part of the ceremony.
And that's the intention of this good thing, that is, young people look forward into the world in front of us. We recognize that we're truly one family, all of us together.
An air of reverence and respect pervaded the atmosphere as we watched the ancient ceremony taking place at our bombing memorial. As the years pass and the ears of corn grow and ripen, we hope that this ritual will help us grow and heal. We hope that the corn remembers and follows us to our new places of service. We hope that the corn remembers the love and sadness we felt for the bombing victims and their families. We hope the corn will also help us heal the scars that can divide us as a community. For Opening Doors, I'm Linda Kramer.
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of District Directions. Be sure and join us next time. Till then, I'm your host, Amanda Patterson. Good night.